All right, welcome everybody to the Southern's Pigskin Picks. Second round of the playoffs. There's 4 games left. Will anybody advance, Les? What are your thoughts on the first round of the playoffs? It was about as bad as could possibly have been imagined.
Yeah, there were. I didn't think we were going to have a lot of teams come out, quite frankly, but there were a couple surprises. Notably, I was just really surprised that Fairfield ended up getting beat by a Staunton team. The Chester Carmel outcome surprised me. Obviously, one of the teams was going to advance, but that kind of surprised me. But I really thought that maybe we'd get another team or two through. It was not a good weekend for Southern Illinois.
Anna Jonesboro should have won that. I think they all thought they were going to win that game. I thought they were going to win that game, but turnovers ended up killing them, and then the missed extra point to tie the game at the end. Or blocked extra point. He didn't miss it. But what are your thoughts on the first round, Pete?
I was kind of surprised with, Jacksonville and Marion. I thought Marion was playing real well, and that kind of go out and have Jacksonville kind of, really beat them quite soundly. I thought that was kind of surprised by that. The Diamond going, I think it was 1-3 or something like that in the first round, and obviously it doesn't do well for the Black Diamond's reputation to continue the struggle against non-Diamond teams, but. We're here with 4 left. I know you talked earlier a couple weeks ago, Les, about you've seen a kind of a tough year for the playoffs for Southern Illinois teams, and it seems like fear is justified from the first round.
And I think, Jacksonville, didn't they go in and beat an undefeated Centralia team in the first round last year? I think they did.
I think they did, right.
I think we all want these South 7 teams to win, but when they're playing the Central State 8, either Springfield, Sacred Heart, Rochester will be 4A, but then Chatham, Glenwood, and Jacksonville, they're just not going to beat them. Unless somebody down here is just having one of those amazing, amazing runs of talent. That's just simple as that.
Carmel lost to Highland by a fairly close score, and now Highland is going to go into that next round, and I'm just not really confident that they're going to make that next step either, even at 10-0, because they're just I just don't think they face the competition either that people like you're talking about are play on a week in, week out basis.
I think Highland will get that, but then you look at Columbia, also weak competition, undefeated, hosts Alto, and they get beat. So it's just that I don't know. Alto can get by being in 4A, but I don't know how well they'd do in 5A if they got one of those Central State 8 teams, which they would have when they were as a 5 and 4 team. But let's get into it. Haren is 8-2. I thought they'd beat Alton Marquette by a couple of scores, and it came down to overtime. And they're 8-2. They go to Alto, who is 6-4. So of course Heron's the favorite. They're 8-2, but I kind of doubt it. Your thoughts on this one, Les?
This is a tough game to call. Heron's got that great running game, and if they can control the ball, control the game, they can win this game. I don't really look at them as the favorite. Alto plays in the South 7. Alto held their own. They've been kind of an up and down team too. They're hard to really get a really good beat on this year. As much as I would like to pick Haren at Alto, at Belleville, and knowing Alto's strength of schedule, I'm going to have to go with Crusaders.
I agree. I've talked to both coaches. Obviously, time of possession and the ground game is obviously something both coaches talked about. And in fact, Alto's coach Ken Turner told me that Columbia actually tried to use pretty much the entire play clock between plays, kind of slow Alto down and keep that offense off the field. And really, that's the kind of challenge for Haren as well, is trying to keep the ball for as long as possible. But once again, Alto being in a bit of a more difficult conference and being at home, I got to go with Crusaders.
Haren will take a lot of time off the clock. They've got the 2 really, really good running backs and a good line. They don't really need to throw it, nor do they try. But I don't know. I think Alto's going to get too many big plays. That Mertens kid he's an experienced quarterback. He loves to throw it all over the place. I think Alto will take this one. Second round, Mount Carmel, 9-1. Their only loss to Mount Vernon out of the South 7. In the final regular season game at Carterville, 10-0. Pete, what are your thoughts on this one?
Obviously it's a huge game, probably the game of the week that we have left. It just seems like in the past, Southern Illinois teams have not really had that much success against Mount Carmel. I remember going to a DuQuoin a game when they played DuQuoin at DuQuoin. Mount Carmel beat DuQuoin.
Ugly.
Yeah, and I just, I've had people talk to me about this game for a couple weeks, and I'm just going to go with gut feeling and pick Mount Carmel in this one.
Les?
I'm going to be a homer. I'm going to go with Carterville, and I like their speed. Speed is the great equalizer in football. They're over there on Carterville's turf, even if it's a nasty day. It's not going to disrupt their speed. I don't think it's going to be easy, and I'll add a caveat that Carterville is going to need big plays to beat this team. By the same token, I'm talking fast and loud to kind of mask my indecision on this, but I think Carterville's got enough speed that they can pull this off, and I think it will be an upset if they do win. But there's just something in the back of my mind that says Carterville might get this game.
I think Mount Carmel's going to win, but I'm going to pick Carterville just so it looks like I'm not completely picking against everybody in the paper, so you can see the rest of the way my picks are going to go. This is really interesting. Mount Carmel plays a much better schedule. It's not even close. Carterville, with the exception of St. Joe Ogden and the Benton game, but that was the first game of the season. They turned it over 5 times. They really weren't challenged at all. Their games have been over at halftime. Anna Jonesboro was able to keep scoring some points to stop a running clock like 3 times, but other than that, they're scoring close to 40-something in the first half, and their starters aren't getting to play the full game. Well, they'll have to play the full game here. Mount Carmel passes the ball really, really well. Carterville does not defend the pass very well. So this is probably going to be a long game because there will be a lot of touchdowns and a lot of passing. But I'm going to pick Carterville just because I feel like it's the thing to do, but I don't have any confidence in them winning this game, although they could. All right, that being said, let's move on to Washington at Mount Vernon. 10-0 Washington comes quite a distance south to face Mount Vernon, who's had a great season. I mean, 7-3 after 0-9 last year. They get a big last-second win in the first round of the playoffs. Your thoughts on this one, Les?
That was a skin of the teeth win. I was listening to the game on the way to the Saluki basketball game on Saturday, and I had reached for the radio dial 2 or 3 times, thinking that the game was over. And Mount Vernon was very methodical, very confident, and they got within a point. And then I would never have guessed that they would have gone for 2 to win the game. But I guess on the road you go for the win, and then they pulled it off. It's just one of the most amazing things I've listened to in a long time. That being said, how long can you roll the dice like that and win like that? A 10-0 Washington team is coming in. I can't see where it's in the cards for Mount Vernon this week.
And it's odd them going for 2 there because like AJ had a chance with 2 minutes to go for 2 in the one on the road, and they didn't. But they didn't even get the tie because the extra point was blocked. So it's a crapshoot. And of course, if you make it, you're the greatest, most inventive coach ever. If you miss it, that guy's an idiot. Should be fired tomorrow. You know how that goes with crazy fans. But Pete, Washington, Mount Vernon, what do you think?
Mount Vernon's proven me wrong several times this season. You know what? I'm going to go with Rams as the upset pick of the week. Just a scrappy team, and you look at a play like last week and saying, well, that could be the difference maker to a long run. Maybe you get the kids some confidence to come through in that moment. So I'm going to go Mount Vernon over Washington.
I know absolutely nothing about Washington, but based on the strength of the South 7 this year, it was a very average year for them. I'm going to go with Washington.
But I was just looking at your list here. 2 of the 4 teams we have left are South 7 teams. So it is unusual. We've been saying it all year. It's an unusual year.
All right, Gillespie at Carmel. Gillespie 9-1. Their only loss was to Greenville, a 59-50 loss to 3A state-ranked Greenville. Carmel 7-3. That they get a win at Chester in the first round. Les, what are your thoughts on this?
Carmel is a nice football team. I thought that all year long. And Chase Saylor is probably one of the best players in Southern Illinois. But that's a nice conference up there. Gillespie plays in with Greenville and those teams. They'll probably just be a little bit too strong for Carmel. But I didn't expect to be talking about Carmel this week either. So I'll still go with the Miners.
Pete.
I agree with what Les is saying. Gillespie is coming from a South Central conference where 4 of the 5 teams that made the playoffs are still playing this week. And like you mentioned,
and they beat 3 of them, obviously.
and only losing by 9 points to Greenville. That's a heck of a deal. And but at the same point, Carmel with Chase Taylor, you don't count them out, especially going up to Chester and winning without 3 key starters. But at the same point, I think Gillespie is just going to be too much for them, and I go with Miners.
All right, I'm going to go with Gillespie too, and if any teams are still alive, we'll be back next week to talk about them. Thanks for watching.